And some Iowa Republicans are signaling they have moved on from Donald Trump's presidency. Ahead of the 2024 race, around 1,200 evangelicals recently gathered for the Family Leadership Summit. There was plenty of praise for Trump, and more than a few attendees told the Boston Globe they would continue to support him as he continues to make baseless claims about the 2020 election. But in interviews with 15 Trump voters at the conference, none told the Globe they hoped the former president would run again. And from one politician with possible waning influence to another who wields heavy influence on what's happening in Washington right now. President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, chief national correspondent for the New York Times Magazine, Mark Leibovich, profiles Klain in his latest piece, and he joins us now. So, Mark, what is, I guess, the Klain way? What are you learning about how he is running this White House?
I mean, essentially, he's a microcosm into how the Biden White House works compared to especially the last one, which is extremely functional, extremely orderly, extremely predictable. And Ron Klain is sort of a return to the model of a chief of staff being really the chief orchestrator, the person who is both sort of frontward-facing on the Hill, in the media, compared to what we had in the last go-around with President Trump, which is kind of a procession of short-time, kind of marginalized figures that the president didn't really know or trust. Ron Klain's been with Joe Biden for 35 years, or on and off for 35 years. He's very much, if not a first among equal, among the senior staff, certainly right up there, and essentially the nerve center of how this administration, which has a very full plate, is operating right now. So I mean, Ron Klain is really the key to understanding what the Biden administration is doing day to day, what it aspires to, and really how it operates, which is a lot more sort of functional than it was in the last one.
So explain what that is, what it is that it shows us, the way he conducts his work. Also keeping in mind that in the former guy's administration, there were several chiefs of staff, and Ron Klain seems to have a steady hand.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that Ron Klain's probably going to last a little longer than Reince Priebus did with his 6-month stint at the start of the last one. Look, I mean, the first thing you need to know about Ron Klain is that he understands Joe Biden. He has been with him a long, long time. He and the president have, if not a mind meld, certainly a shorthand language in which they can anticipate how the other is going to respond, what the other needs, what the other's concerns are, how arguments are going to play with the other. So, I mean, Ron Klain he's not exactly, again, he's not a stand-in for the president, but he's an alter ego in the way that he can really kind of represent the president's viewpoint, both inside the West Wing and on the Hill, and whenever he's talking to people around the Hill. So, I mean, that is the first part. The second part is just as a manager, he keeps the trains running on time very, very quickly, very rapidly, very predictably, which is, again, not something you saw in the last administration. And Ron Klain is someone who has essentially been a heartbeat away from this job for a long, long time. He was chief of staff to two vice presidents, Vice Presidents Biden and Vice Presidents Gore. And so he's been very close to this job. He knows how the presidency works. And so, again, it's really kind of a throwback, or at least a sort of scale back to what we used to see in a job like this, when a chief of staff is essentially a manager who led the White House and also who sort of spoke for the president.
Mark, Elise here. I really enjoyed the profile, and I'm a big fan of Ron Klain and think that he's a very competent, steady hand. But what I found hilarious was the Republican quote grousing that he is the prime minister, because that's what people used to say about Jared Kushner, who arguably had the same kind of influence within the Trump White House. What did Republicans say to you on background about Ron Klain? And is it really his competence that is so, that is such a threat?
I mean, the prime minister thing is kind of an old trick where, I mean, people want to try to put this unelected power center into play here, because essentially Republicans haven't had any success going after Joe Biden. Nothing has really stuck. And this kind of plays to the idea, kind of a nefarious idea, that President Biden is not really in control of his own White House. He is not really in control of what's going on. The country is being led by this person you don't know, this man behind the curtain, in the words of John Thune, the Republican senator from South Dakota. So it's somewhat of an old trick to sort of bestow great sort of all-knowing powers onto an aide. But in a sense, I don't think Republicans really believe it. And I think that people on the Hill that you talk to know that, like, he is a man that you can, Ron Klain is someone that you can call really in either party, and you will know where the White House is coming from, that he speaks for the president. And it's something that, I think the prime minister thing is kind of like a stand-in for something that they can't get the president on.
All right, Mark Leibovich, thank you so much. The new piece is online now for the New York Times.